Hey there, YouTubers. All right, so in a moment, going to turn on this here motherboard, and we're going to baseline it and see how much power it uses. Now, I have a boring stick of RAM there in it, no SSD, and we do have an RGB CPU cooler. This is stock CPU cooler. It comes with the i9-12900. But what you're going to get out of this video is an idea of how much each USB peripheral that you add to this, how much power it's drawing. We're going to look at two case fans. One is 120 millimeter with just a solid red light on it, and then a 140 millimeter fan. Now, how does that benefit you? Well, if you were wondering how much power case fans use, and of course there's all kinds of different sizes and all kinds of different types, we could, plug in all kinds of different ones and get some different values, but you'll get a general idea of how much power this is going to use and how much this guy's going to use, okay? So other things we're going to plug into it, if you ever wondered how much your cell phone, how much power that uses just plugged in, we'll do that. If you leave a capture card plugged in like this cheap Lenovo thing that I got here, you'll get to see how much power that draws. And then also keyboard, if you have lights on your keyboard, okay, we'll see how much that draws. Now, whatever reason, my mouse does not light up inside of the BIOS, but I would assume, there's some wattage there as well. So at some point, I will also put the the RGB RAM in here so you can see how much power that draws as well. So right now, we've got this device here. You can see the 0 is how much power it's drawing. Right now it's 0 watts, and that's how long it would last, at least 99 hours currently. So back over to here. Now I'm going to turn this on and we're going to baseline this and see how much power. Notice no USBs hooked into it. Alright, so I fired it up, and we'll give it a second to basically flatline or hit steady state. And 32 watts, folks. That is 32, 33. All right, now it's gonna, it was 32, now it's 33. Boom, back to 32. So we'll go with 32 as our baseline. Now, what shall we plug into this first? I'd say let's put in a stick of addressable RAM. And then we'll be able to tell if we had 2 of those, we just double that amount. So you can see it's fired up again. We've got our XPG, I think this is D41 if I remember correctly, RAM, 16 gig stick. I have 2 of them, but we're only going to put the 1 in. So we were at 32 as our baseline, and let's give it a moment to basically hit steady state. 34, okay? So that's with this thing basically not really doing anything, right? It's just sitting there at the BIOS. It uses 2 watts. 2 watts more than the RAM that was in here before. So at least if I had 2 of these in here, we know that we're using 4 watts just to have that pretty light on there, right? So, one reason I'm doing this, folks, I was kind of curious how much wattage this stuff uses. Now, some of this stuff you can look up, but to be honest with you, it's usually just a lot easier to just do it yourself if you have the capabilities, right? All right, so what should we do next, folks? Let's start plugging in some things. Let's plug in our keyboard, all right? So we're at 34 watts. Let's plug our keyboard in. Keyboard's plugged in. $1 watt used, okay? So if you had just a regular boring keyboard, you'll save 1 watt. So not really a big deal. What about let's see, if you leave your cell phone plugged into your computer all the time like I do, obviously it would need to be powered up or charged up anyways. But let's go ahead and find out how much it uses. Because if you were doing your calculations, you might want to know, hey, I'm going to leave my cell phone plugged in all the time. And voila, it's drawing 2 watts, okay? 2 watts for the cell phone. Let's go ahead, let's say you have a cheap ass capture card like I do, and you leave that plugged in all the time. How much electric are we wasting there? I'm going to pause it to plug it in. We have that cable to this, and just so you can see, it is lit up. And when that thing's working, it puts off some heat, right? But right now, it's not really drawing a whole lot. All right, so now we're up to 38. Now, we've got 2 fans here. Let's put the big 140 millimeter. Let's hook that up. We're at 38 right now. Let's see what this thing does after I plug that fan in. Not the most brilliant way to do this, but you can see the fans going. That is a 140 millimeter case fan, no lights. And you can see that added at least 1 watt, okay? I don't have decimals on there, so we're just kind of rounding it to, you know, what it seems like, 1 watt, maybe it's 2. So what does that tell you? If you had a case that you could fit anywhere from 3 to 5 of these in there, you are using 3 to 5 watts, okay? Not a huge thing. That also would tell you if you had a awesome Noctua CPU cooler like this guy, that you were probably using at least 2 watts for that, okay? And that's just at standard speed. If we were to adjust this to full speed, those values would go up, okay? How much? I don't know. We're probably not going to check that in this video. But, all right, so we have another one here. Let's go ahead and see how much a 120 millimeter fan with lights would add. Our 120 millimeter case fan. This is a cheap one, Up Here brand. And it's used anywhere from 3 to 4 watts, okay? So what does that tell you? If you had a case and you put 3 to 5 of those in there, right? Then you are probably adding anywhere from 12 to 20 watts, all right? Now, what does that matter, folks? Well, you know, a lot of you ask me, oh, is this enough? Is my power supply big enough? You know, which it's not that easy, you know, telling somebody, yeah, I'm going to use this CPU with this graphics card. You really got to understand what else they're doing with it. If you wanted to nail it, right? Find the exact minimum PSU that one could use. You can see by adding a lot of other stuff here that, you know, potentially we have added 20, 25 watts. So that might be the difference between you being able to use a 500 watt power supply and a 550, or, you know, having that 750 and needing to jump up to 850. Whatever it may be, keeping track of things like this, your USBs that you're plugging in. Now, obviously, we saw the keyboard didn't really do anything, 1 watt. The cell phone didn't do a whole lot. We got a couple watts out of the video card. We saw that we got 2 watts out of the addressable, the RGB RAM, right? So if we had 4 sticks of that, potentially we might have added 8 watts, right? Maybe it's even more, but at least it looks like it would be at least 8 watts if you were to add 4 sticks. Now, of course, this guy, if we had just a regular old CPU cooler with no lights on it, we know we would save, you know, 1 or 2 watts there at least, right? So these are all things that could factor in when you are doing your PSU calculations. Now, what we didn't talk about, folks, and this is covering it up, we've got this lousy EVGA 750 watt. Now, why do I say lousy? This is the lowest efficiency model that they make. I have platinum around here. I've got gold. I've got bronze. Of course, you know, sometimes it doesn't really matter, because if you're not in the zone where that power supply is most efficient, whether you use the white, bronze, gold, platinum, you know, may not make a difference. So it would be kind of interesting to take this and replace it with the 750 gold we have around here and see if we actually would end up using less wattage. But for the most part, I believe it's probably going to be right up the same number. So if I ever get bored, folks, I may just make this video again. Now, other things we could plug in, folks. Here's a USB Wi-Fi, right? We could find out how much power that uses. So I'm going to unplug the keyboard. We know that used 1 watt, so we should drop down to 42. Yep, 42. And then we can see how much this thing uses if I can plug it in. Wow, I'm not going to be able to plug it in. I got to disconnect something else. All right, so we're going to disconnect the cell phone. So we went from 42 to 40. All right, now I should be able to get this in. At least I hope I can. And there should be a light on here somewhere. Now this may be another device that doesn't do anything until you get into Windows. Yeah, so that was a bust, folks. Can't tell you how much this one's using. Unless it is... Yeah, it's plugged into USB 3.0. So that didn't work. But for the most part, you got an idea. Now, solid state, that could use, obviously, some power too. A hard drive, you know, multiple hard drives. All kinds of things, folks, that you could add to your computer if you have a lot of hard drives hooked up to it. I'll show you, and it's not, you know, I'm just have these plugged in for the hell of it, but plugging in a bunch of drives, and you never need those drives. This is wasting power too, okay? Board with RGB lights on it, like this one, you know, more power being wasted. Graphics card that's got lights all over it, more power being wasted. I definitely have nothing against cool lights. Obviously, I've got a lot of them, but like I was saying, these are all things, folks, that factor in to your calculations for how much electric you're using, because you want to make sure you size that power supply up just right, so in the heat of the moment, where the big, you know, grand finale in the game or whatever, the big boss, whatever you're doing, your computer doesn't just reboot itself, okay? That happens when your power supply is not up to the job. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys got something out of it. At least, you know, hopefully you walked away with one itty-bitty thing of knowledge here. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you.